Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Loeries Creative Hour. I am just waiting. Our guest should join us soon. As you see, they're on the line. Fantastic. Hi, thanks for joining us.
Hey.
I am just going to unmute you quickly. Let's see, that should be...
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Perfect. I think this is great to have you both. Welcome to everyone that's joining us as well from across Africa and the Middle East to another edition of the Loeries Creative Hour. I'm so excited for this one. We're going to have such an amazing discussion. I think we're all anxious. We're all at a point right now where we're trying to figure out how do we move societies forward? How do we move forward in our roles as well? And today we have two fantastic individuals who are going to give us some great insights in terms of the space as well. So overall, just to give you some background before I introduce our guests, our partners, one of our partners for the Loeries is Brand South Africa. And Brand South Africa, obviously amazing and do some amazing work around the world. And today we're discussing Nation Brand Recovery Plan, the Nation Brand Recovery Plan, and the role of creatives in this as well. So I think it's going to be a fascinating discussion. Just to give you a little bit of insights on Brand South Africa and the work that we do. Brand South Africa is a sponsor of the Loeries Young Creatives Award. And this is an award for new entrants into the industry. People who are 27 years and younger, and people who are just coming up and need that extra support in terms of how to make it in this really, really tough industry themselves. But that's not all that we've done. This year has been a fascinating year, and because of the challenges of COVID, Brand South Africa has innovated with us. And one of the things that we've done is we launched the final approval webinar series, which was done with Donovan Goliath and Amatili, one of the industry's greats as well, where we had some amazing and fascinating discussions. Also, again, helping young creatives and new people in the industry to find new ways to traverse this field of creativity. And today our guests are going to continue in this tradition in all of this amazing work that we've discussed. We're joined today by Tshepiso Malele, who's the marketing manager at Brand South Africa, and Bonolo Modise, associate creative director at FCB. Tshepiso, Bonolo, thank you so much for joining us and being on Loeries Creative Hour today.
Excellent. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I love your hair, Bonolo. I know Susie Bolling from the Loeries told me, because we haven't met, well, none of us have met before.
Yeah.
So Susie told me that Bonolo has an amazing new, like, bright and funky vibe. So we can see the creative in the group of three of us here.
That obvious, huh?
Maybe Bonolo, starting with you as well, since we started this discussion. I mean, it's one of the things we do, we always do start off and ask our guests how they're coping with the challenges of COVID-19 as well, because we all have been personally impacted, our organizations have been impacted, but at a very personal level as well. How have you coped and how have you been impacted by everything that's happening?
So I think the biggest change would be the fact that it just seems like we work 24 hours now. It doesn't stop. Because we all know that we're next to our laptops and it's easy to kind of like, be like, let me just check one more email or reply to one more answer, like one more message. So it just kind of, it makes you not have boundaries between kind of like being able to take care of yourself and knowing when to stop. So I found I'm continuously working all the time. And even over the weekend, you're like, maybe I must just have a look, just what if something important's come up? And it's hard to be disciplined with it. But yeah, I think that's been my biggest challenge, just being able to know when to stop and just like relax. It's enough.
Well, you'll be, I don't know if you'll be happy to hear this, but I think everyone we've chatted to has told us exactly the same thing. It's like, there's been this blurring of lines. Yeah, like home used to be this personal space that you could own and was just to relax and a bit of work every now and again, but now it's completely become a workspace. Tshepiso, on your side, how are you coping? Because I'm sure you're also working really hard and the work at Brand South Africa doesn't stop, but on a personal level, how are you coping and what are the challenges that you're finding?
Yes, you're right. The work has never stopped. And I think I've gotten into the swing of things now. In the early stages, it was a little bit of an adjustment, with the world being turned upside down, finding one's rhythm. It did take a little bit of time, but I think right now I've gotten used to it, and I realize that the show must go on. We need to find ways of just remaining productive, and I think that is probably the secret for all of us. If we can find a way of still being productive, whichever way it is, then it'll help cushion us a little bit. But I am also accustomed to working on the road, whether it's in the car, on a plane, in airport bench, whatever the case may be. So I think this just feels like one long trip away from the office.
I'm sure it does. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people who feel the same as well. So I just want to say hi to some of the people on the line. Unfortunately, we can't mention everyone, but just to say thank you for joining us, Eugene Beloy, Ethiam Jali, Joy Moyo, Junior Makomo, Crystal Felsman, Loisa Twala, Maureen Bam, all these amazing people, and all of these other names that I can't get through. Thank you to all of you for joining us and being part of this conversation. If you do have any questions for our guests or any comments as well, and I can see comments already coming in, please feel free. I see Sohana is also here.
Yay!
Single name Sohana, and you know which Sohana it is. So if you do have any questions or comments, please feel free to contribute to this conversation. It's part of your conversation as well. So Tshepiso, maybe something I can ask you, one of the things we're speaking about is obviously Brand South Africa and the roles that creatives are playing in terms of building this brand. But other than that I want to understand some concepts like nation brand building. When we speak about nation brand building, what are we speaking about and why is it so important?
Sure. I think it's essentially about looking at ourselves as a country, as a brand, and asking ourselves exactly how we want to be seen by the world, how do we want to be treated, and what effect we want the perceptions that those people have of South Africa to have on them and on the decisions that they take. So from a theory perspective, every single country is essentially in competition with every other country. Everybody wants a little bit of share of the tourism spend coming their way. Everybody wants their exports to be the sexiest. Everybody wants to attract their fair share of investment. And everybody wants to be respected as a citizen of whichever country. So that's bringing it down to an individual level. So if we then take a step back and say, right, if we want to look at South Africa as a brand, what are the levers that we need to pull in order for people to see us in the way that we would want to be seen? How do we influence the narrative around South Africa? And how do we use every single aspect of South Africa to communicate in their own way in order then to contribute to that bigger picture that will then strengthen our country brand, that eventually will benefit every single one of us as we go about our daily lives. So our role in Brand South Africa is really managing all of those aspects, all of those levers, and importantly, all of the stakeholders who have a big role to play, because we may be the custodians of the nation brand officially, but we don't have full control or influence on all the elements as they play out in daily life.
And how difficult has it been during this? I mean, it feels like everything stopped, everything down to a house, and I'm sure you had a number of different initiatives planned for the time that just went by. How difficult has it been trying to keep the South African brand top of mind on the global stage at a time when people are thinking about the challenges that they're actually experiencing?
Sure, it's been quite a challenge that we needed to respond to very quickly. We had all our plans. We kicked off our financial year in April, and we knew exactly what we wanted to do and when and how. And we very quickly had to adapt some of those plans in order to make sure that we continue working and continue delivering value for the country brand, which we did. We did that very quickly, and now we're moving with from that perspective. And we've actually realized that perhaps being thrust into this situation has helped us leap forward and find even better ways of doing the things that we know we need to do. Now, this COVID-19 challenge is also a major test from a country brand perspective, where the entire world is watching. We're all watching each other and seeing how we're managing this pandemic, and the way in which every single country manages the pandemic, how they respond or how they do not respond, actually now starts playing in everybody's minds, and we start judging each other, and we start judging countries, and we look at countries that are held in high regard, and sometimes we scratch our heads and say, but how could they do that? How could they not do anything? In the same way, South Africa is also under the spotlight in that our ability to manage ourselves, to respond to a challenge, to coordinate our resources, and to present ourselves in a way that really puts us in a positive light is really what's out there. And we all have to recognize that, whether we are marketers, business people, unionists, government, and so on. So every single one of us has some kind of role to play in that regard.
And I'm going to add creatives as well. And I think what's amazing is a lot of the points he's bringing about are applicable not just to South Africa as a brand, but to across, we chat to countries across Africa and the Middle East. So even across Africa and the Middle East, whether you're tuning in from Nigeria or Kenya or the UAE, so these points are so relevant to you as well. Bonolo, one of the things that's also important is, and it's not just to economies and countries that have struggled during this time, but individual brands as well. And I think sometimes there's such good lessons that can go from what commercial brands are doing and what countries' brands are doing as well. From your experience, how have commercial brands been able to cope with the challenges that have happened over the last few months?
So I think the end of March was a bit of an interesting time because it just felt like as soon as COVID landed, everyone got into a panic. And I think it was so interesting to see how initially all the brands kind of tried to run away. It's like, we're cutting budgets. We can't be going out live with the stuff that we had planned now. We have to rethink everything. And then we then had to do a job of being like, let's not panic, the same way people were panic buying and kind of freaking around, running around and trying to make sure they're okay. I think brands had a bit of a reaction like that as well. And so it took a lot of having to calm them down and just reassure and say, listen, let's just first assess what's going on. Let's first understand how this is going to impact us before we can actually just want to cut everything off, because it's not going to help anyone to not communicate effectively during this time. So we kind of had to take a step back and say, what is the most pressing thing that you're facing now, right? And say, from the stuff that you feel like it's super essential, what can we try to prioritize to make sure that you don't disappear during this time, because consumers are going to remember. If you don't show up during a time of need, people will remember that you went away and you thought about yourself first before you think about the people who buy from you, the people who support you, the people who've essentially built you and made you who you are. So I think it's been really kind of encouraging to see some of the clients we work with, most of them really, kind of take a step back and say, cool, we're not going to panic. It's tough, it's difficult, and there's a lot of uncertainty going around. But from that, we just need to make sure that let's do our best to show up the best way we can with whatever resources we have to make sure that people know that at least we tried.
That's great. Also, Tshepiso, I mean, if we have to go straight into the topic, I mean, one thing is the topic for today was the Nation Brand Recovery Plan and the role of creatives. Maybe at the first part of that, talk us through some of the plans into the Nation Brand Recovery Plan and what's being thought about and what's been worked on right now.
Sure. So we talk about a Nation Brand Recovery Plan out of the acknowledgement that a lot of what has happened in the last few months has posed a major challenge and a major problem for many of us and many of the components that make up the Nation brand. Economically, there's been a lot of devastation, and then also from a social perspective, there's been negative impact on people. And we've also observed, because we've had a research study that we've been tracking that has been helping us track the attitudes of South Africans ever since the lockdown was implemented. Up until now, we've been watching and seeing what South Africans are saying, how they're feeling, and we've seen how how that sentiment has sort of evolved over a period of time. We started from a point where everybody was on board and everybody agreed that fine, we need to shut down and we all need to heed government's call and do what government is recommending. Then as time moved along, the pressure started taking its toll, and then other ideas started coming on board. People started coming with alternative positions on what versus what we've been presented with, and so the debate started raging. People started becoming more desperate as they were personally more impacted, and eventually we got to a point where there was less of a cohesive position that we were in as a country, as many of us would have seen on social media and eventually in the news. So we do need to do a lot of work from an inside-out perspective, looking at our internal stakeholder engagements, our ordinary South Africans, business, making sure that we can achieve some sort of harmony and agreement as to exactly how do we pull ourselves out of this situation as a country, so that we can emerge stronger and start tackling that task of rebuilding our economy, rebuilding our society, and getting back on track to playing that collaborative, our respective collaborative roles in continuing that work of building the nation brand that journey we've been on all along before we were hit with COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So there's some sort of recovery that's required from an inside-out perspective, from a South African stakeholder perspective. There is also a bit of a challenge, again, as I think I mentioned a little bit earlier on, from a broader international perspective. Looking at our international audiences, we now need to then start fighting again for our fair share of mind, which will eventually lead us to the fair share of wallet when those decisions are eventually taken, those financial decisions that impact us as South Africans. So I think those are the two perspectives from a recovery perspective. We really need to put in all the effort that we can garner in order to then start doing what needs to be done, because some countries are a little bit ahead of us, and they have already started trying to fight for their fair share of the economy. Fortunately, I've already seen some of our entities here locally. We've seen KZN, we've seen the Western Cape already starting to promote themselves and reminding people, as Bonolo was saying now, reminding people that we're still here and we will be here once everything goes back to normal, new normal, if I can call it. We are still here and we need to continue doing what it is that you expect us to do.
And I'm sure one of the tough parts as well is it's not just marketing this to an external audience, but also getting internal buy-in from South Africans to remain positive, and also for South Africans to start traveling. As you mentioned, KZN started, so the marketing communication, so it's important to market internally as well. Maybe Bonolo, thinking about this, how important is it in terms of managing expectations for your stakeholders? I mean, in the creative world, we're always thinking about the communication, not just to external audiences, but sometimes internal, who are within your brand, within your community. How important is it, even at times like this, to think about having the right voice to speak to your internal audience who play a part in terms of communicating a brand to an external audience?
So I think for me, that's been the biggest kind of talking point, or at least the biggest point that I think maybe a lot of agencies or a lot of creatives, especially like from leadership, may have not necessarily paid a lot of attention to. And because I think our initial reaction is to think that the problems we need to solve are outside, as opposed to thinking that even the people who work within actually are their people, So whatever's happening outside definitely affects them too. And how we first communicate to the people who actually then need to drive the creative for the people who we are then having to communicate as consumers to, it's quite important. Like, sometimes it's the most simple thing as making sure that the teams who are working on the brands are okay. Like, you just need to make sure that the human who is actually touching and creating the work, they themselves have ways to cope and kind of assimilate with what's happening on the outside. So they have kind of, they can communicate from a space of also being calm, knowing that they can be reassuring, knowing that their role is quite critical in making sure that we're able to reassure the outside to say, listen, as consumers, we've got you, we see you, everything that's happening is happening to us too. So it's become quite important for brands not to remove themselves from coming across as if, oh, okay, we can see you from over there, and we are trying to like talk to you at, you know, with almost at a stone's throw distance. So it's become quite important that we make sure that we take care of our creatives, make sure that they're in the right kind of frame of mind. And then from there, then we look at even the extended teams, like your client service, our business partners, the people who actually interact with our clients all the time. We need to make sure that they're okay too, so they can actually find the solutions and help us figure out how do we come up with the best creative to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the clients and for the brands, right? But I think, and I've been having a lot of discussion about this with like Suhana even, and I've been saying to them, guys, it's so important to take care of people. Like internally, externally, in every sense, the people who actually touch these brands and work with our clients, even the clients themselves, we need to be able to take care of them and make sure that they feel like as human beings, they're actually in good spaces, because that's how you can make good decisions. If you're feeling like as a person, I'm okay. You know what I mean? Like it then helps you get to a point where you're like, how can I help the next person to make sure that they too can become okay? So that's been the biggest thing for me, like reassuring people that it's okay. If you're not feeling like working, it's cool. It's okay. And if you're not feeling like you're in the right mental space to address certain briefs or to talk to specific clients or to try help out in any way, that's also okay. Like, don't feel bad about not being able to do a certain task or a job or address a brief or talk to a client if you know that you're not in the space for it, because that ultimately affects the work that we come out with.
That's such a good point. You know, and I think the appropriate thing I want to latch onto is being in the right mental space as well. And you know, following on from that, Bonolo, Tshepiso, I mean, being like having an audience in South Africa as an example, having things that South Africans say about South Africa is so important in terms of influencing and impacting the mindset of people outside our borders in terms of actually coming into the country itself. And right now, a lot of South Africans are generally not in the right mental space because of the challenges that have happened over the last few months. What are your thoughts, I guess, on ensuring that we get the country to a right mental space? Is there anything Brand South Africa is doing, or maybe other government entities doing, in terms of getting South Africa to the right mental space to speak positively? And if I can add a second part to that as well, because I want you to think about this, is that creatives are huge influencers, and they have the ability to influence wide audiences as well. How important is it to influencing the creative mindset and getting creatives to speak positively about their South African experience if they're based in South Africa, or the Nigerian experience or Kenyan experience if they're, I know there's a competitor countries, but I'm gonna ask you for some advice that they can use as well. But how important is it to have creatives amplify the message as well as having it amplified internally?
Sure. Yeah. There may be competitor countries, but we've actually worked quite closely with some of our sister agencies representing other countries on the continent, sharing knowledge and so on. So we don't really see them as competition to be decimated. We do share as much as we can as we do our work.
Brilliant.
Back to your question, you're absolutely right. I think the first part, when it comes to responding to the psychological challenges, I think that's something that really needs a lot of attention. I fear it's something that may become overlooked as we all, try to react to mainly to the economic problems that have arisen, and deal with those fires and try to put them out. It is important actually for us to not lose sight of what could be a lasting emotional impact, and that really might stay with us. So I think it's something that really does require a bit of focus. But as far as working with South Africans including creatives. I'll come to the creative part in a moment. But looking at South Africans broadly, it's an area that has been receiving continued focus from us as Brand South Africa, to the extent that we even have a program called Global South Africans. And through that program, we're able to reach out to South Africans who are currently living and working abroad for whatever reason they may be abroad. We're happy that we have many potential nation brand ambassadors who are out there, who we can work with and build relationships with, and also get some feedback in terms of insights as to what's going on in the countries where they are based. What do people think about South Africa? What are they saying about South Africa? And through that program, we share knowledge and tools and information with those South Africans and empower them in order to allow them to talk about South Africa, to be able to respond to questions that may arise. If somebody is sitting in Japan or in the US and their colleagues or their fellow students see something in the news, and the next morning they ask them, so what's happening in South Africa? I saw something mentioned in the news. As a South African, we need to be able to respond in a way that is not only accurate, but also in a way that's constructive. So that's what we aim to achieve through that Global South Africans program. And in fact, we've recently launched an online portal that will make it even more practical and a lot easier for South Africans to start sharing the work that they're doing, to start contacting us to if they need additional resources and tools, or if they'd like us to visit their cities the next time we go out on our international outreach trips. So we have that program that's running. It's being managed by our team in the global markets unit. I must also say we have country offices in the US and in the UK, as well as some activity happening in China as well. So through those offices, we're able to engage directly with South Africans on the ground. Where we don't have a physical presence, the global markets team based here in South Africa does interact frequently, working through South African missions such as consulates and embassies, as well as other partners on the ground. So for example, we've also been able to form partnerships with bodies and organizations who represent South Africans. So there may be a South African community sitting in Qatar or in Hong Kong that gets together frequently, or whatever activity there might be, whether it be just social or to commemorate some of our national days of significance. We've formed relationships with some of those people, and we work with them throughout the year as opportunities arise and as we develop our own work here that we feel will be relevant to assist them in their efforts as patriotic South Africans, to be our voice within those markets. Now, coming back to the creatives, I'm sure many people will know we've partnered with the Loeries for quite a few years now, and the reason behind this is the fact that as creatives, there's a lot of influence in the narrative, in the way that that communication plays out locally. We have a strong influence in what South Africans see and what South Africans talk about, and how they feel ultimately about certain brands and about certain situations that play out. And so our aim is to build a strong relationship with the creative community so that we can start influencing them towards finding those opportunities and taking those opportunities to showcase South Africanness, to showcase the positive elements, and to use the various strengths that the South African nation brand presents whenever they are conceptualizing solutions for their own clients. We've seen how some countries have really been strong when it comes to influencing how the rest of us, how the rest of the world sees them and feels about them through some of their creative outputs, whether it be film or commercials or any other thing that has been produced. It influences the way we see the country and our desire to visit that country or to purchase products that are made within that country. And so that just highlights the very important role that creatives can play in communicating, a positive narrative about South Africa.
Fantastic. And you still have advertising campaigns that are Sorry, I'm not sure. I want to share one of these right now very quickly.
It's something that suddenly happened to all of us, and it's quite scary. Everyone's doing what they can, when they can, how they can. It's my job. It's my job to help people, nothing really has changed. I still get up in the morning and I still do my job, so it doesn't feel any different. We went that out, and everyone was doing their part, and I'm really proud of us as a nation. We really did it. This is where I was born, this is where I was raised, this is my country. I will be proud to help this country for the rest of my life, if I can, if it lets me. South Africa.
And I think this speaks so well to the points that you were just making about, not just getting creatives involved, because creatives were involved in making that piece of copy, but it was also in getting ordinary South Africans to actually share their voices and share their experience and amplifying it to say, it's a tough time, but we're all going to get out of this as well.
Absolutely. That's very important. And you would also understand the level of credibility that comes, from individual South Africans who are actually now communicating, using their own initiatives and giving their own.
Absolutely. And Bonolo, I think one of the things is within the creative community, creatives can be quite impactful in their social circles in different groups. In fact, a lot of creatives become influencers, and we've got so many examples from our industry. I'm not going to start naming all of them because it's a long list. And one of those areas of like nation building itself, and especially now in this time in terms of recovery, how important is it for creatives to start actively applying their mind to the fact that there have been challenges that COVID-19 has brought about, and maybe this is an opportunity for creatives to amplify and use their voices to try and help the country recover its image post this situation?
So, I mean, you're right. There are just way too many influencers.
There's a lot, yeah.
It's crazy. It's fantastic, but it's crazy. I think it's even more than just the people who already have that platform, right? Because there's an expectation on them already to behave a certain way. And honestly, there's some things that we can't expect them to do just purely based on associations and such. So, but the thing that's more kind of important for me that I think we need to start communicating to every single creative is to just make them aware of the fact that every single day you wake up to do work, you can actually make a difference. Mm-hmm. No matter how small the brief you get, no matter how big the brief you get, it's an opportunity for you to decide how you're going to impact people through the work you do every single day. And it doesn't take you being an influencer to actually be able to find solutions. And that's what we do on a daily basis. Like, our job is to find solutions every single day. You're a creative, there's suits, but ultimately your job is to help people figure out how can we make things better. And I don't think people realize just how much power they've got in just being able to wake up every single day and say, I'm a copywriter, I'm an art director. I mean, for example, I work on Tiger Brands, and if you think about the top 10 most loved brands in the country, most of them are Tiger Brands. And if you don't realize just how important that is to be able to actually say, I work on X brand, and every day I wake up, it's an opportunity for me to collaborate with my clients and say to them, listen, let's make a difference. Let's show up in a way that's going to be meaningful for our people, for our country, for us as a collective, to make sure that even when we wake up tomorrow, like, none of us are going to feel bad about what you had to do yesterday. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone has that opportunity to be able to influence every single day, no matter how small the space you're in, even if you're an intern, even if you're a junior, even if you're a CD, whatever your role is, your responsibility is just to wake up and try to influence things positively, no matter how small or big your role.
I love that. I think it's given me something to also think about as well. Tshepiso, just following on from what Bonolo is saying, creatives are receiving briefs every single day where brands are looking for creative ways to basically communicate the message, especially now, I think more than ever. How important is it to adapt some of those nation building ideology and thinking into the responses to these briefs that are going out right now? Do you think this is something that could help in terms of this nation building and recovery efforts that are going on?
Yes. So are you asking how important it is for us to get thinking around the nation brand incorporated into
yes,
those
for brands. Yeah. So instead of us going, hey, it's Brand South Africa's responsibility only to do this. I mean, is this an opportunity maybe for other brands out there to look at it and go, we should be a part of this nation building effort, and especially in a time like this? And should creatives, as a keeper of trying to solve these problems, try and figure out how to incorporate more creative ideas into it based on nation building in the response to the challenges that brands are facing right now?
Absolutely. And, one of the things that we always try to emphasize as we do our work, every single platform that we get, we want to make sure that every single stakeholder understands that Brand South Africa is the custodian of the nation brand. However, we do not own the nation brand. We are merely there to manage and to build value so that everybody around us can reap the benefits thereof. So it's very important because that actually determines how people's attitudes towards the brand and what role they think it should play in their lives. So it's important for everyone to take ownership of this brand and asking themselves, right, how do we make sure that we can derive value? How do we extract as much value as possible from what's being done by everybody else that's come before us, by the nation brand custodians, by every single South African who's gone out there and flown the flag for us? How then do we leverage that and incorporate it in our work and our solutions? That's one. And two, how do we use our own brands and our own platforms to respond and to contribute towards positioning our country brand in the way that it should be? Because ultimately, we then stand to benefit as brand owners now. I'm speaking now as brand owners. So it's very important then, as much as possible, whenever that opportunity arises, to think about how that can be done. And as Brand South Africa, we've tried to play our part by making, first of all, opening up the channels for direct communication with us. And we do have relationships with big corporates, with whom we work throughout the year. But we've also gone a step forward to provide the tools. We've got, for example, a masterclass on the nation brand that we run. We've been running for a number of years now, which really unpacks and breaks down the nation brand construct and the thinking behind it, and in order to help stakeholders understand exactly what the important elements are of the nation brand and how they are impacted and how they impact the nation brand as well. We've also then gone ahead and produced what we call the toolkit, a nation brand alignment toolkit, which again is also meant to assist those stakeholders who want to leverage some of the aspects of the nation brand and who want to start representing elements of the nation brand in the work that they're doing independently. We've made that available freely for everyone to make use of. And I like to tell people that they need to start making use of all of Brand South Africa's work as much as they can, because they've paid for it one way or another. We're funded by government, and our work it's very clear that we need to produce value for everybody: ordinary South Africans, business, civil society, government, and so on. And so every single person, whenever they have the opportunity to, they need to see how they can extract value from that nation brand. And indeed, when looking at either developing briefs or responding to briefs, they should also keep that in mind and see what role the country brand can play, or what role they can play in contributing to our nation brand equity through whatever work that they're doing at the time.
Fantastic. Amazing. we received a number of questions. So I know you've both been hard at work answering them behind the scenes, but we have a lot of people who may miss these answers. So I'm going to ask them, and maybe starting with Bonolo from Luisa Twala. And Luisa asks, creatively, what are the positives and opportunities that creatives can look forward to out of this pandemic? And hopefully I can block your answer and say, don't use your answer. Let's see if it's repeated.
So for me, I feel like this is, and I mean, I've said it in the box there already, but yeah. It's actually a great opportunity for you to steal from other people, essentially. Like if you've been having a tough time with your competitors, this is an opportunity for you to actually be able to show up for consumers in a way that will make them choose you over everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing we're forgetting. Like, people have such an affinity for being valued and being seen. And that's the thing that I feel a lot of the time as brands, we kind of overlook and we think, how are we going to scheme this year to get them to actually buy our stuff, metrics and this and that. But you forget that you're actually just talking to another human being. Can you just not stop for a little bit, think, if it's me, what makes you buy what you buy when you get to the shelf? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the thing that makes you stop and think, I want to get, my favorite rice is this. Even if they charge you a bit more compared to what you can get, you'll still feel like, actually, if I buy something else, I'll feel bad, you know? But it's a job that they've done to reinforce that it's never going to let you down. That's why you always buy it. And that's why we need to kind of, if you wanna really shine, this is the time to do it. And also, if you think about how consumers have been reacting lately to her, like, they want you to have purpose. What is your role in my life? Why must I continuously choose you? Because it's hard with a little bit of money that people have, but you have to then fight really hard to show them why you are worth that 10 Rand that they have to spend.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's I remember my past life. I started off in brand management, and it was always tough, and it was always exactly the same challenge. How do you continuously show your value to individuals? Forget about groups of people, forget about psychographics, demographics. In the end of the day, you're right. It just comes down to individuals just like you, and you're going to go, and how in an honest way can you say that this is the best product for you and the best product for you to actually have the best experience possible. Luis also has a question for Tshepiso, and he asks, how is Brand South Africa relooking their national building efforts in the face of COVID-19?
Okay, I think we touched on that a little bit a bit early on, but
if there's anything else,
just to emphasize that I think now more than ever we really need to put our best foot forward. Now more than ever we need to be efficient, especially considering the fact that we now even have less resources to work with. We've got less money that we have to work with. In fact, we've had our own budget cut situation that we've had to deal with, as government has really tried to find monies in every single corner where they can. But at the same time, our mandate does not change. We still have the same deliverables and more now that we're faced with this situation. And so it really is a time now for creativity to come to the fore. And it really is a time for collaboration and for us to make sure that we really sweat the collaborative opportunities, because there we're able to share resources, to share ideas, to share platforms, and also make sure that whatever we do is able then to be delivered in as many different platforms and situations as possible, without necessarily burdening one organization or one party with the responsibility of having to deliver those solutions. So from a nation branding perspective, we still need to make sure that we position our country competitively, so that we can achieve all of the national objectives that we've set out, and also so that we can assist all of the role players who are impacted by the brand, in order for them to become successful at what they are doing. Because it is also, the environment has become even more competitive for them as well. If we think about business, for example, that business environment has really become tough, not only locally, but also internationally.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's tough trading conditions, and therefore I think there's such a room for more creativity right now. Bonolo, we have a question from Welcome Moyo, which I know you've had a look at already. And it goes, Bonolo, what does 2021 and beyond look like for creatives and creative work in light of COVID-19? So this is when you need to get your crystal ball ready and go, what does it look like?
So, and this is something that, if you think about it, for the last few years, the industry's been talking purposeful work. Even for myself, I've been hounding our leadership saying, what is our purpose? I don't know if you guys watch Rick and Morty. You know, when that robot says to Rick, what is my purpose? And he says to pass butter, and he's like, oh my God.
I've been meaning to get into it. I haven't, but maybe I need to try. I've been trying. There's no time. I need to get into it.
This question always reminds me of that, because it's like, why are we here, right? What is the point of our existence as creatives, as business, as civil society, as anyone who has anything to do with what this country can become, right? You have to think about, how do we show up? And I can never emphasize that enough, because we seem to forget that purpose kind of brings people together. It helps you think about, what is it that I want to wake up for every single day that I can contribute towards that makes positive change, right? So I think as brands, it's the same principle. You have to continuously think about, what is it that whether it's a product, whether it's a service, whether it's just, you have this whole range of stuff that you want to sell, but how is that effectively helping someone else improve their life? And that's the stuff that as creatives, we really need to think hard about. Like, it's not just about coming up with a cool idea, you know, I'm going to win a few Loeries and I'm going to become a rock star in the industry. Great, that's great for you. But what is your work actually doing to impact other people positively? Because ultimately that's the goal, right? Don't we wake up every day to try and make some kind of small incremental change that, you know, even when you hang up your writing pad, when you hang up your, you know, art director hat, you at least know at the end of it all, you've managed to contribute in a way that will actually, you can point back and say, that was me. You know, when you think about ads like look, you know, someone did that, and I still remember because someone did that. So your work needs to start finding purpose in a way that you must decide, are we trying to build the nation? Are we trying to build a group of young people? Are we trying to build women? Are we trying to build, what is it that we're doing? Why are we doing it? Like, selling at the end of the day will become a byproduct of people choosing you because you are showing up in a meaningful way for them.
Yeah, I had a chat with AB Magatswana from who's the CMO of Vodacom on a platform that the ASA was doing a few days ago, and what he's speaking about is finding your North Star. What is your North Star? What is that guiding light that guides everything that you actually do? And I can tell you that, you know, as the Loeries, we're completely vested in this idea of nation building and building the continent, building the region as well, because everything we're doing is all about how can we find that amazing work that actually celebrates the best that's out there, that actually builds society. So completely agree with that as well. There was another question. I think while I was trying to find this, Tshepiso may have already answered this, but there was a question. Here we go. From Junior Mokomo. Has the Nation brand considered into sharing these masterclasses, those masterclasses you were chatting about earlier that you shared with corporates, to agencies and educational institutions at tertiary level or high school level? And I'll leave you to answer that.
Yes. In fact, I've just sent the answer back. But just to reiterate, yes, we are very happy to share this masterclass with as many people as possible, and that's the whole idea. And so what we've been doing over the years is we've been hosting sessions with mainly targeting communicators, going around the country and presenting that masterclass. But what we've been able to do now is actually package that masterclass into a digital format. And we're actually now busy. We've produced all the different elements, and we're now working on actually launching it on our website. So in the next couple of weeks, it will become available, and anyone can just log onto our website to register and go through each of the modules of the masterclass. And they're also free then to continue communicating with us. If they have questions, they'll be able to direct those to us. We'll respond to those questions. And in future, when opportunities arise, we are also happy to come through and do the actual presentation or have further discussions relating to that specific masterclass. And one of the outcomes that we, in fact, two of the outcomes that we normally get from those kinds of interactions are, one, our stakeholders having a better understanding of the nation brand construct and what role they might want to play, which then allows them to propose other forms of collaborations and partnerships with the nation brand, whether on domestic or on international platforms. The other outcome that we sometimes get is that our stakeholders are then more encouraged and more willing to take on visual representation of the South African nation brand on their own platforms and help to increase the visibility of the South African nation brand as much as possible. So yes, in the next couple of weeks, it will be on our website. Keep an eye out on our digital or social media platforms. We'll make the announcements there once everything is live.
And just to confirm, is there a cost to go through the course?
No, not at all. As I mentioned, those of you who pay your taxes have already paid us. So everything is freely available. With whatever work we do, it needs to be freely accessible to South Africans. So you'll find research reports on our website. You just register and you'll find the key reports that talk about, that look into the nation brand insights, whether they be from domestic perspective or an international perspective. The tools that I spoke about, some of the pieces of communication that we produce, we also make those available. For example, we have corporates who sometimes come to us and say to us, look, we've got an international roadshow that we're about to embark upon. Do you have something that we can incorporate into our presentations so that we can position South Africa and position ourselves positively before we actually go in to talk about the proposal that we have for our investors or for our customers, because we need them to have a better understanding of South Africa before they can have confidence in what we are able to do as business coming from South Africa.
I have to tell you, I loved how much you cringed when I asked if there's any cost. There's no better show of honesty than going, that's not us, than actually cringing, going, no. So I love the amazing work that you're all doing to help build South Africa as a nation. I still have a few more questions, but we have sadly run out of time. So hopefully you'll get some time to type those out really quickly. But one of the other challenges that we have is that across Africa and the Middle East, everyone that's tuning in and people who are going to watch this, people have been going through their own challenges and they're looking for that light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe Bonolo, starting with you, any last words and words of advice to everyone who's tuning in and watching today?
So for me, I think it goes three ways, right? The first thing is to everyone who's a creative, please realize you have so much power. You don't have to be an influencer to do great stuff. You don't have to be to have like gang followers on social to be able to impact people around you every single day. You have an opportunity to do that every time you get a brief. That's a chance for you to actually show up as a South African, as a human, to say, how can I make things better for someone else through my work every single day? And to like agencies, creative leaders, people who actually have an opportunity to have impact on us as the people underneath them, right? Mm-hmm. Please try to take care of your people. Like, there is so much value in showing your employees that they matter, that they're important, that you can hear them, that you're listening. If you do that, there's nothing that your creators will not do in order to make sure that they drive your agenda, they drive the agenda for the clients, they drive the agenda for the country. It's so important just to take care of those people. And lastly, thank you to the Loeries for giving us this opportunity to chat. You guys have been doing such a great job. Please don't stop. Let's carry on. There's so much more work to be done in trying to build our country, trying to build the region, in trying to make sure that, you know, we all show up in ways that actually improve our creativity and also just take us to the world stage in a way that's meaningful and in a way that helps us build Africa's narrative and the region's narrative our way. So, yeah.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much for being part of this as well. And remember, to everyone tuning in, I always say this, the Loeries belongs to all of you. In the same way as Tshepiso says, you know, the work that they do belongs to all South Africans. Everything that we do as Loeries belongs to all the creatives. You're all owners of this and the results that we put out there. So we're looking forward to try and serve you in any way that we can. Bonolo, how do we keep up with you? So how do we keep up with you if we want to find out more about what you're involved in?
So I'm on Instagram. I will type it in there. It's KMelo.
Okay, perfect. Just in case those who won't have a chance to, when they watch it later, they won't have a chance to read what you type.
So it's KEI _ Melo. So that's MELLOW on Instagram. But otherwise, you can just email me. It's bonolo.modise@fcb.co.za.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Tshepiso, from your side, any last words of advice, support to everyone who's tuning in, and especially to all the South Africans who are out there who are going, would love to be able to, you know, get a little bit of motivation right now?
Sure. I think as a parting shot, I'd like to say to everyone, let your patriotism show through your work. Whenever you have that opportunity, let us see your South Africanness. Put in your, you know, put your brick on the wall as we try to build up this country and this nation brand. You indeed, as Bonolo said, you are in a very powerful position in that you have a very strong influence over how people feel and how they think and what they talk about and how they position what it is that they are, you know, that they are talking about. So should let your patriotism come through. You have the power to help us achieve this. This huge task that is at hand.
Fantastic. And how do we keep up with you and Brand South Africa?
So Brand South Africa, our website is brandsouthafrica.com. You can, and from there you'll be able to have access to all of the different aspects and elements that I spoke about as you navigate there. You can follow us on social media as well. Brand South Africa. Personally, you can find me. I think I'm more active on Instagram, Tshepiso _Malele.
Fantastic. Tshepiso Malele, Marketing Manager for Brand South Africa, and Bonolo Modise, Associate Creative Director at FCB. Thank you both so much for your time and all the amazing insights that you have, that you've shared with us today. Just one little parting shot for me, the Loeries, the official Mask of the Loeries competition that we're running with Brand is officially open and still out there. If you want to find out more and get your entries in, please go to www.loeries.com to download the templates, create your design, and you could have your own mask created for you and people within your community as well. So please go out and then look at that. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to you both again. All the best and look forward to chatting to you all again next week. Take care. All the best. Cheers.
Thank you. Happy weekend, everybody.
Yay.